Welcome back, Grillionaires. I am the top Grillionaire, the internet's favorite barbecue expert, and the king of the cul-de-sac when it comes to barbecue. My name is Mark Ashby of Grill Mart Co, and today we are going to settle the ultimate cast iron showdown. In one corner we have the new and shiny. In the other corner we have the old and reliable. We have the new Finex tin, very expensive, beautiful cast iron skillet. And in the other corner we have the seasoned vet that's seen countless grilled steaks to perfection, the Griswold skillet pan from the 1920s. Which one's gonna come out on top? Let's find out in this cast iron clash. Let's get started. Our first step is we have to take our pans and we got to put them on the grill. And we're going to turn that grill up to 450 degrees and get those pans screaming hot. The first step in this process was we took these beautiful Angus New York strips that we got here and we dry brined them in the fridge for 3 hours simply by adding some Sicilian sea salt from Spice Swallow. That's a lot of S's. Now that we have dry brined them, we're gonna pat them down and then we're gonna add a pepper coating. So we're gonna be doing salt, pepper, that's it. The reason we're doing this video is because we are trying to see if this Finex pan can cook a better steak than the seasoned Griswold that I got from my grandmother about 15 years ago, but she's had it in her family for years. So it is well seasoned, has seen great steaks cooked out of it, and we're gonna put it to the test today. Let's talk about the differences between these two pans. First off, the Finex. The Finex is a newer model. It has a ring around the handle. It is extremely heavy. It weighs in at 7.9 pounds without the lid. Then we have the Griswold, which was built somewhere between 1920 and 1930. The Griswold comes in at 3.8 pounds. That makes the Finex pan 70% heavier than the Griswold. We're gonna be cooking these steaks kind of Gordon Ramsay style. We're gonna be basting them with butter, rosemary, and garlic. Simple seasoning of salt and pepper, but we are doing things a little bit differently. We're gonna be using 2 fats and oils that have very high smoke points. The first thing we'll be using is some smoked beef tallow, which we actually made a video on. Go back and look, I'll link it up here. And the smoked beef tallow is what we're gonna be using as our oil base for the pans. It has a smoke point of about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And for the basting, we'll be using ghee, which is clarified butter. What that means is all the milk solids and fats have been removed and it makes it have a higher smoke point, which this is at 480 degrees. I got this at my local grocery store. Now we've already pre-seasoned with some salt. We're gonna put a little bit more salt on. It's not gonna hurt it. And we're using our Spice Swallow Sicilian sea salt. Then we're gonna season it with some coarse ground black pepper. Then a little secret of the trade, you see all this extra salt and pepper that we have floating around on the pan? Mop it up with your steak. We want a beautiful Maillard browning, which is the crust that forms on the skin of the steak. Now we're gonna let these steaks sit for 20 minutes to kind of come up to a little bit of a room temperature so that we're not cooking just the outside intensely and then it kind of brings all that into the center where the center's still raw. We're going for a medium rare of about 128 today. All right, come take a look here. We can see that they are very hot. You can see how this has turned blue a little bit here. This one. So we're gonna take our beef tallow and we're gonna add this as the layer, the base layer for our steaks. Put it in the Finex first. So look how instantly that melts. All right, now we gotta take this and just make sure that we get the whole bottom covered. Same thing here, make sure we get the whole bottom covered. Make sure you're wearing a high heat glove because These pans are screaming at over 400 degrees. Now, we're gonna be cooking these the same time, same temperature, same way. Each one gets 3 cloves of garlic, each one gets 1 sprig of rosemary, and each one's gonna get the same amount of beef tallow and ghee. We're gonna take our first steak, and let me tell you how to properly lay it down away from you, like this. And you should hear a nice, what sounds like applause. That means that we got the right temperature. So here we go. Just like that. And you hear that applause going? That's what it should sound like. Now we're gonna let each steak sit for 3 minutes, and then we will flip them one time. Three minutes is done. Take your tongs, and we're gonna simply flip them over. Nice gorgeous crust there. Nice gorgeous crust there as well. Now is the time where we're gonna infuse some flavor. So I have 6 cloves of garlic here. Each steak is gonna get 3 cloves. Right there, and right there. Next, we're gonna add some clarified butter to baste it in. Right there. And last, they each get a sprig of rosemary, about the same size. So, rosemary. Now we're gonna baste this for 30 seconds each on each pan. We're gonna do the Griswold first, so what you do, tilt it down like this, take that butter and baste it over the steak like this. Now we're gonna take the Finex and do the same thing, tilt it down, and we're just gonna simply baste our steak like this. Now we're gonna use a Chef's Temp Final Touch meat thermometer just to make sure we're not overcooking it. About 114, not too bad. A little bit lower at 105. We're going for about a 128 internal temperature, so we're gonna pull these out when they hit about 120 to 122. Somewhere in that 5 to 7 degrees of range. That way when it rests, it'll still cook internally and all those juices will come back in. All right, we're gonna shut off the grill now. And we just temped the steaks. They're about 122, 123. So we're gonna take the steak and we're gonna put them on this pan, knowing that we have the Finex on the right and the Griswold on the left. We're gonna let them rest for 10 minutes and then we're gonna hop inside our kitchen and cut them open. Here is a Grillionaire pro tip while we're letting those steaks rest. We're gonna be putting them on our walnut cutting board, but sometimes when you put your cutting board on a surface, it can push back and forth. We don't want any kind of rocking because a sharp object and rocking doesn't mix. So we're gonna take some paper towels and we're simply gonna wet them, and then you're gonna lay it down on your surface, right here, and put that cutting board on there, and it's not going anywhere. Both of these were cooked for the same amount of time. This one right here was in the Finex pan. This one right here was in the Griswold pan. Now, just from presentation alone, we can see the Griswold one has a little bit of a better crust than the Finex one did. But we're gonna see if they both cook them evenly, or, you know, is it really worth to get you a Finex pan? So let's cut into the Finex first and see. We're gonna cut on a bias here. And here's hoping that we did not overcook it. And we did. A little bit overdone. But we still have some pink in there, so we got probably a medium here. But we got wall to wall, medium. Still very juicy for choice, so they were a little bit fattier. Well, the Finex one, we cooked it to about a medium. I think I let it sit there just a little bit too long, maybe an extra minute or so, and that does, you can see here, does affect it. But we're gonna try it out, get the pinkiest part that we can, and here we go. Despite it being kind of a medium to medium well, this has lots and lots of flavor to it. A very beefy flavor too, because we use that smoked beef tallow and just simple salt and pepper, garlic, rosemary. There's a very nice herbaceous, buttery flavor to it. Still super tender, gorgeous. Now we noticed that the Griswold had a little bit of a better crust, but let's cut into it again on a bias. And we know it's gonna be a little bit overdone. That is okay. Definitely a medium well here. Again, we see a little bit of pink in there, which gives it that medium. And it's a little bit fatty, so we're gonna trim that piece off. I'm gonna try this one as well. This one had a little bit of a better crust. Let's see if it tastes any better. The Griswold, I feel like it imparted a little bit more flavor. I'm not sure how, because again, we basted it the same. That is tender, that is beautiful. These are steaks grilled so rare, they are well done. Literally, they're well done. The question is, which one does better? And honestly, they cook the same. Now, one thing I do like about the Finex over the Griswold, the Finex has that handle on the outside. It looks better in presentation wise. So to me, the Finex has a slight edge just because of the design. And with the Griswold, I have to continually season it. With the Finex, I did not have to do any seasoning with it. It came that way, and it'll just get better as we cook more and more with it. Is it worth the money? Yes, it is definitely worth the money. Do you need one? No. If you have an old cast iron pan that you've been using for years, something that you've been passing down to your family for years, or if you're new to cast iron and you want to get something really nice that looks really good presentation-wise, go with the Finex. The Griswold had a little bit of a better crust in my opinion. Either way, these are both beautifully cooked steaks and they turned out perfect, just like me. Now here on this channel, we show our failures and we show our successes. This one I wouldn't call a failure, just a little bit of a tougher steak. That's okay. It's not always gonna be perfect. We have a medium to medium well steak. This is the presentation for them though. The Finex has a beautiful presentation ability for it. Really smooth bottom, not much seasoning that needs to be done. Both cook the steak perfectly, so who wins in the cast iron clash? Really, it's up to you. Until next time, make sure you eat well, you do well, and you can cook a steak a little bit better than me. We'll see you then.